Norman, the Clumsy Artist by G's Flavor House. In the quiet little town of Pine Brush Valley lived a young goat named Norman Nibbleton. Norman was a gentle gray goat with wide, hopeful eyes and a fluffy tail that wiggled when he gets excited. But everyone knew one thing about Norman. He is unbelievably, completely, and wonderfully clumsy. Norman tripped over sticks, rocks, his own hooves, and sometimes nothing at all. Once he slipped on a patch of perfectly dry grass. Another time, he bumped into a tree that he had been staring directly at. Norman could not walk from one room to another without at least one thump, bump, or whoops. There was something special about Norman, bright and beautiful that only a few close to him knew. Norman was an artist, a real, true, heart-filled artist. Because of Norman's clumsy nature, hardly no one saw how good he truly was. One time, he painted a beautiful mountain sunset. He tripped while carrying it, and the paint slid under a row of lockers. Another time, he made a wonderful sculpture of a fawn, and he sneezed while trying to present it, and it broke before anyone could see it. One day, he finished a stunning chalk mural on the classroom board, only to accidentally erase half of it by leaning against it while trying to hang up his backpack. His classmates whispered kindly but doubtfully, Norman is sweet, but he's too clumsy to be an artist. He means well, but he messes everything up. Maybe he should do something safer, like cloud watching. Norman tried not to let their words sink too deeply, but sometimes it hurt. He wondered if maybe everyone was right. Maybe he would never be good enough. But every evening after school, he returned home to his family's warm wooden barn on the edge of the valley. There lived Mama Goat, who sewed wool blankets and scarves, Papa Goat, who worked in the fields gathering grass bundles for the town's market, and Nibbles, his tiny little sister, who loved to hop on Norman's back and giggle until she fell sideways into the hay. Norman loved his family, and although they were happy together, they were struggling. The grass in the valley hadn't grown well that season, so Papa Goat had less to sell. Mama Goat's sewing shop had only a few customers lately. Food was getting scarce, and the bills were piling up like the tall stacks of unpainted canvases. One night, Mama Goat sighed while stirring a pot of carrot soup that was thinner than usual. We'll be okay, she said softly, but her eyes looked tired. Papa Goat nodded, but added quietly, we just need a little help, or a miracle. Norman's heart squeezed with worry. He wished he could help. He wished his art could somehow make things better, but he didn't think it was good enough. Not when everyone kept seeing him trip, fumble, or fall. The very next day, colorful posters began appearing all around Pine Bush Valley. They were pinned to trees, fences, and even to big wooden doors of Brushwood Art School. It read, The Great Pine Bush Valley Art Contest. The winner receives 500 acorns and a place in the Valley Museum. 500 acorns would be more than enough to help his family fix the barn roof, buy food, take care of their bills for months. When Norman read the poster on his way home, his heart thumped. The idea seemed impossible, but also hopeful. At dinner, Papa Goat cleared his throat. Norman, your mother and I have been talking. Mama Goat looked at him with gentle, warm eyes. We think you should enter the contest. Norman nearly choked on his carrot soup. Me? But I'm clumsy. I'll mess everything up. What if I trip on the way? What if I drop? What if I don't take me seriously? Mama touched Mama touched his hoof. Sweetheart, we see your art every day. We know how talented you are. Just because others haven't seen it doesn't mean it isn't wonderful. Nibbles jumped onto his lap, her little horns barely poking out. Norman, do it. You're the best artist in the whole world. Mama Norman wanted to believe her. He wanted to help, but fear twisted inside, and doubt whispered louder than hope. That night, Norman laid in the meadow outside their barn. Fireflies glowed softly around him, and the sky stretched above like an enormous painting filled with stars. Norman looked up and whispered, God, I'm scared. I want to help my family, but I'm afraid I'll fall. I'll fail. I am always tripping. I am always dropping things. What if I never get right? What if no one ever sees I can do this? A warm breeze brushed past him, soft as a hug. The air felt peaceful, and in his heart, Norman felt a quiet, gentle whisper, not from the wind, not from the night, but from God. You can do this. Have faith. I made you special. Trust me. Norman took a deep breath, and fear did not disappear completely, but something stronger took its place. The feeling of hope, a quiet kind of bravery. Okay, he whispered. I'll try. The next morning, Norman got to work for days and days. He painted from sunrise to sunset. He practiced balancing his easel, steadying his hooves, and moving slowly so he wouldn't bump into anything. He mixed colors he had never mixed before. He tried mixing soft gold, rose pinks, deep purples, and warm blues. His masterpiece slowly came to life. Pine Brush Valley in the early morning. Dew was sparkling on the grass. Hills were glowing like like brushed golden. And in the center there was a tiny goat climbing a mountain. It looked like a beam of sunlight shining down on him as if it were cheering him on. Whenever Norman felt himself wobble or get frustrated, he remembered the whisper, have faith. Finally, after full week of hard work, Norman stepped back and gasped. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever created. Contest day arrived. The town square buzzed with excitement. Animals of every shape and size carried painting sculptures, mosaics, and crafts. Norman carefully lifted his paint and started walking slow, steady steps, trying his best not to tumble. But near the stage, his hoof caught a pebble. Norman tilted forward, his painting tilted with him. The crowd gasped. Norman squeezed his eyes shut, but it didn't fall. He wobbled steadily himself and stood upright again. It felt like a strong, unseen hand had kept him from falling. Norman looked at the painting, not a smudge, not a scratch, perfectly fine. He smiled, carried it to the rest of the way, and set it on the stand. And then something special happened when everyone really looked. Animals crowded around, eyes wide. The judges leaned in close. Look at those colors. The details are incredible. This is beautiful, said the judges. Who made it? Norman? Norman the clumsy goat? Really? But their voices weren't teasing this time. They were amazed. Norman felt his cheeks get warm and as more and more animals gathered to admire his art. His classmates stared, mouths open. When the judge ended, the when, judge, when the ju- when the judging ended, the mayor stepped onto the stage holding a shiny ribbon and a small wooden trophy carved like a paintbrush. After careful consideration, the mayor announced, the winner of the Great Pine Brush Valley Art Contest is Norman Nibbleton. For a moment, Norman couldn't breathe. The crowd erupted in cheers. Mama Goat burst into tears. Papa Goat lifted Norman into a hug so tight his hooves dangled in the air. Nibbles ran up and down, shouting, That's my brother! That's my brother! Norman accepted the ribbon, feeling warm spread through his chest. He looked up toward the sky and whispered, Thank you. With the prize money, Norman's family fixed the barn roof, brought plenty of food, and even picked up new art supplies for him. His painting was placed in the town museum, where visitors came from all over just to see the sunrise that looked alive. Norman still tripped sometimes. He still stumbled and wobbled and bumped into things. But he didn't feel embarrassed anymore because he learned something far more important than balance. Even clumsy hooves can create something beautiful when a brave heart and a little faith guide the way. And from that day on, Norman wasn't known as a clumsy goat. He was known as a goat who believed he could and did. The end.